Okay, so we're going to have a look at a piece of software called Observium. If you've never heard of it before, it's basically a network monitoring tool. So it'll collect data from all your network devices using the SNMP protocol, and then it'll present that data in a nice web interface that we can then start interacting and monitoring our devices on the network. So I'm going to set it up on a VMware workstation, but obviously you can install it on any Linux box. So today is not going to be a full installation. I'm going to do another video with a full installation, but today, for the purpose of this video, I've downloaded a copy of it from turnkeylinux.org, really good utility, where you've got prepackaged Linux flavors already. So go ahead and download it from there. I've already done that. And then we'll go up and open up a virtual machine. Okay, so I've downloaded the VM image already, as you can see from here. So we'll go ahead and load that into VMware. And give it a name. Slightly older version of Linux, 14, but it's perfectly fine for what we need here. Okay, so giving it a name, I'll click import, and then VMware Workstation will go and import that. Now this is a pre-packaged, as I said, working installation, so you don't have to go through the whole process of installing this on top of Linux and going for all the dependencies, which is really quite good. Like I said, we'll do that in another video, but for now we'll just start with this one. Okay, so VMware's imported it successfully. You can see I've got default 512 meg RAM, which isn't very much, but actually that's fine for only just kind of a bog standard Observium installation for testing purposes anyway. So that's fine. So we'll go ahead and power this on. Now this version here is actually set up with a number of pre-configurations. So there's no password set by default. So when we go through the installation process, what we'll have to do is go ahead and set some passwords. So the system will ask us for some passwords. Okay, so you can see that it's going to ask us some passwords. So I'm going to set up some basic passwords. So this is the root password that we've just set up there. Then it'll ask us for the password for root for MySQL. I'm just going to keep them all the same. And then finally the admin password. So this is the we're going to connect via web interface and start looking at the devices. So again, I'm just going to keep the same password. Okay, so as I say, this is coming from Turnkey Linux. So if you wanted to, you could actually apply your configuration and upload any save changes and stuff like that, but I'm not going to bother. So I'm just going to skip over these things here. So we'll go ahead and install security updates. That's probably a good idea. So we'll do install on that one. Okay, so if you make a note of that, turnkey install security updates, it's probably just because we don't have our internet connection set up just yet. But that's fine, so we'll just click OK, and we can come back to that later on. So you can see that the reason why it's just failed there is because the networking hasn't been configured yet. So we'll go ahead and set it up for DHCP. Okay, so alternative, if we didn't want to use DHCP, what we could do is use a static IP address. So essentially just assign an IP address. specifying a DNS server, and apply that. We'll see, because I'm using VMware, I'm going to set mine back to DHCP. But obviously you could use static IP address and just using the method we've just seen. So here now we've got our Observium set up. It's picking up an IP address from DHCP because I'm in VMware. Okay, and it's pretty much good to go there. We're good to start using Observium. Okay, so now that the IP address is set up, on the screen here you can see how we can start to connect to it. So we have, if you want to go via a web page, so there's the interface which I'll show you in a second. We can just go to 192.168.158.133, which is what's been given, the IP address that's been given to us by DHCP. So from there we can just connect from a web browser, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. We can also SSH into it, and we will need to do this when we start adding some devices to the network. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. But for now, all we're going to do is connect to it via a website. So this sits there in the background running as a service, and then all I'm going to do now is open up a new tab, okay, and then just map to that. So we'll go 192.168.158.133. Okay, and if you remember the passwords then that we had before, so it's basically just admin and then whatever password we set earlier on. Okay, and here we have our Observium. So at the moment you can see there's nothing actually set up yet, so there's no devices set up. But this is the web interface that we can start now to interact with and monitor some of our devices. Now if we were set this up globally and we had devices all over or quite a large geographical location, what we would see down here is once we've set up our devices we could see exactly where they're geotagged, which can be quite useful. So we're going to go ahead now, there's nothing actually we can see in here, so we're going to add some devices. Now you would think that adding devices in here would be a simple add a device and then start adding the information from here, and sometimes that works fine, but the documentation says that you're actually better off using it from a terminal. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and we'll maybe have a go at setting one up later on by the web interface as well, but for now we'll have a look at how we set that up in a from terminal. Okay, so here's the network I've got set up. I'm using JNS3, but obviously you could use this ideally on physical hardware. So what I've got is my Observium server that we've just set up here. Remember I can access that via the web interface, which I've had a look at here, but there's nothing kind of set up just now. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up two routers that are then going to send their SNMP traffic up to Observium, and then we can start to look at this from these two interfaces here. So we'll go ahead and just do a basic install on some of these devices. So we'll open up R3, okay, and we'll basically go and do a couple of things. So we're going to set up a interface first of all. So we'll give this an address. So let's give this 141. And then do no shutdown, bring the interface up. Okay, so we've connected that there now. Okay, so we'll just check that we can ping from this now that we've assigned an IP address. So we do ping 192.168.158.133. Okay, so that means that we can ping between our router and our Observium, so that's good. Okay, so what we now want to do is kind of do some basic configuration on the router, just to kind of allow some of these SNMP to be configured and to send information to Observium. So let's load some of these commands in. Okay, so we could configure all kinds of SNMP traffic, but we're just going to do some quite basic ones just now. So we'll now go and create an access control list to allow the Observium. So we'll create an access control list which is going to allow the Observium image to then connect to this router. So we'll do allow 192 or permit 192.168.158.133. Okay, so we've now set up some basic SNMP, and do show run. You can kind of see the SNMP traffic that's going to be sent to Observium. There's quite a few different types of traps that we configured. So obviously it depends on what kind of information is being captured, which will be sent to Observium. Okay, so now what we need to do is SSH into the Observium to go into the terminal. So we use putty to SSH into 133. And we'll just click yes to trust this. Okay, and then putty's basically going to ask us to log in. So we'll just go root. And put in the password. Okay, so now to add devices, we've logged in via SSH, and we want to go into the Observium installation folder. So if we do cd change and then opt, and then do a quick list from there, you'll see that we've only got one folder called Observium. So we'll cd Observium, and again we'll do it ls. Now, so this is the script here, the add device script, and this is the one that we're interested in. So what we're going to do is do star.to// to run this. We'll do add device.php and then the host name. So it's R3. Then the community string, which we set up as Cisco Lab, and then we're using version 2. So we'll put in the port number, so port number 161, and then we're going to use UDP. We'll press enter. Nope. So we'll try that again now, having corrected my spelling mistake. So what I'll do is go and pull the device to see if Observium can now speak to this router that we've set up. Hopefully it should work. Okay, you see, so it's trying to add Observium in here. So if you look up, it says it's actually failed, and it normally comes up saying something like failed. Oh, there you go, could not resolve R3. So for some reason, the community edition, which is the one we're using, it can't resolve host names. So we can rectify that. If you're using the paid version, then there's not actually an issue. We can actually rectify that if we do cd and go into ECT, and what we're looking for is the host file here. So if we do nano hosts, and we'll go and add an entry in now for our router. So it's 192.168.158.151, and we're going to call it R3. So this time when we say connect to R3, it'll know exactly what to do. So we'll do Control X and then yes to save and confirm that. Okay, so if we go back to then, so I'll have to do cd alt/Observium to go back into that one, and then we'll run that command again now. So add device R3. Okay, so this time it should now be able to resolve it. So it tries to add an R3, and hopefully because there's a host file in there now, it should now be able to resolve R3 to the IP address if I've set it up correctly. So you can see it's now working. Okay, great. So what we now get is we've got this information here telling us that we've now added the device successfully. It'll give us a bit of information about the device there. But what we can actually do now is flick over to the devices over here, and let's do a quick refresh. Okay, and what we now see is that we've now got our single device in here. So we've got a router. Okay, so there's not much information in there at the moment because we've only just added it. So what we'll go and do is add a second router in just now. So if we come out of this and go back to GNS3, so while that's kind of loading up and getting some information in there, what I'll do is I'll go and add another router in. And again, all we're going to do is give this another IP address. So we'll do configure terminal, interface FA00, IP address 192.168.158.142. So while we're doing this, Observium should be polling the router to get some information from it. Okay, so with a no shutdown on that interface there, and then what we'll do is go back into global configuration, and then we'll just set up the same SNMP on this one. Okay, so let's add all these back in again. So again, we'll start to pull this one. So we should now, by the end of this, have 2 devices, which we can then start to see in Observium. So again, we're just going to point it towards the Observium server. So incidentally, 2 of these ones here, whenever we change a configuration or we copy the configuration, it should send a trap message to Observium. So we'll create another access control list, just like we did before, and then we'll allow permit the Observium server to speak to this server. There's 133. Excellent. Okay, so now we've done that. Let's go back into PuTTY. So we'll go back into Observium 192.168.158.133. So okay, so we're back in here again now. Okay, so what we can now do is go and add so the first thing we want to do is probably go to the hosts file. So nano hosts. Okay, and we'll add another entry in here, 192.168.158.142, and then R4. Again, on the paid version you don't have to do that. For some reason on the community one, the free one, it doesn't do resolution. Okay, so from in here then what we can start to do is run that script. Remember, the script we're trying to run here is the add device one. So we'll do star dot to run the script, and then we do add device.php, and then it's R4 community string, so the password that we set up, Cisco Lab, and then version 2, port 161 using UDP. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add this second device in, so hopefully by the end of this we'll have 2 routers that we can see in Observium. We can start to manage that. Okay, so it's added that one in, which is great. So we'll go back now to this one here and do another refresh. You can see we've got 2 routers in there. So this first one's been up for a wee while now. So we'll go and click into this router here. Okay, so we started to get some information. You can see there's event logs here when things go up and down. It gives us, it's pulled some information, so it's got object IDs, it's got the address, and stuff like that, which is quite useful. I can look at the port numbers. Okay, so at the moment nothing's really happening. Okay, so it's got this message here, so you've normally got to leave it for a wee while just to kind of update. There we go, so it's actually done an update now, so it's picked all the information in there, which is quite good. So we can now start to look at the different ports. So of course there's nothing actually happening on this this network here. There's not actually any traffic, but it starts to show me kind of what speeds there's been, so you can see the actual maximum speeds, MAC addresses. Start to look at VLANs. So at the moment there's only default VLAN 1 and kind of the ISP ones, which aren't being used just now. Okay, so we'll go on the overview then of router 3. So obviously we can see the model number. Remember, this is running from GNS3. Location, you can see how long it's been up, so in this case 24 minutes. Logs of all the different things that's taking place, so these are the things that SNMP is sending the traffic. We can see a processor utilization, we can see amount of memory. Okay, so again some of these things are coming up because they've not been up for very long. So 29% processor, input output 31%. Let's have see if we've got anything for the other device. Okay, so it's collected that one as well, which is quite good. So again, it's got some key information for us there. Processor utilization 1%. So again, we can start to look at the individual things on our networks. Don't know why it's getting a draw error there, that's unusual. These are fast Ethernet ports connecting to the individual ones. You can see they've done neighbour discovery, so they've spoken to it using CDP, and it's recorded that. So you can see that there's no traffic. Obviously, there's no users connecting to this, and no one's sending any data. But you can imagine if this was a large network, and there'd be lots of traffic in there. Okay, so that's just a quick overview then of how we can get Observium set up to monitor a couple of devices. It should be quite useful. So in the next video, what I'll do is I'll do a complete install. So I'll show you how to start from scratch and set this up on your own.